Hello, and welcome to what will hopefully be the first of many in a new series by Apollo Capital. I'm Tim Johnston, Managing Director, and we are starting a series off called The Interview with an Investor, where we interview some investors in the fund. Today, I'm very lucky to be joined by a long-term supporter, an investor in Paul O'Brien. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Tim.
Thanks for joining us. Let's get stuck into some hard-hitting questions about crypto assets and broader portfolios. So Paul, if you could just start off with an introduction from yourself as an investor, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, so my background is in finance. So I worked in investment banking for about 20 years after doing an economics degree at university. That time was really all in financial markets. So I've got a good knowledge of markets globally. I did a number of offshore postings and was fortunate enough to spend time in fixed income, currencies and commodities and equities. And then after the GFC, I, took stock and wondered, sort of what I was going to do after that, and took the chance to leave the corporate world and really just set myself up as effectively a small family office. So I'm it. I do my own investing. I'm really interested in macro and the global sort of economic, changes that are going on constantly and what effect they have on asset prices, and then investing, according to that. So initially I did a lot of commercial property investing because that was, sort of stable incomes and there was good margins available. But really divested a lot of those investments in the last few years, and now I'm much more sort of, I suppose you'd say, liquid type investments across all different asset classes, and crypto being one of them.
Excellent. And on that, Paul, how and when did you first hear about crypto assets, and what was your initial response when you first heard about crypto?
Well, look, I'm always interested in innovation and certainly I'm not a technologist. I'm not trained in technology, but certainly that's, when we talk about innovation in the current day, then technology is a big part of that. I did some work, or I've been associated with and done a lot of work with an institute for traders based out of the States, and so that they've been a really good resource for me to sort of sort out not only the psychological aspects that we all need to sort out to approach trading markets and how we approach risk and all those sort of things, but how to set up trading plans and there's a whole lot of different aspects that have to be pulled together for me to trade something properly or invest in something properly. I use those words, trading and investing, as sort of interchangeable. I suppose you'd say trading is potentially more short-term and investing is more long-term. But anyway, so being associated with those guys, the head of that institute it got really interested probably in about the beginning of 2018. He was getting quite interested in crypto. He did a number of webinars, and then I went over to the States and he ran some workshops in the middle of 2018, I think it was. And so over 2 days, we spent a lot of time sort of digging into the detail, and there's quite a lot of it. But how it all fits together to me was just really interesting. So through my own education, I suppose there's some really simple type books, and I know you guys have got some resources on your website as well. But just even cryptography, it is the thing that all of this is based on. Like, that's pretty amazing, sort of, how that actually works, and then how blockchain technology sort of works on the back of that. And that's, people sort of get carried away a little bit with that, but it's just a new particular type of technology that's, and the thing about that is it's, because it's decentralized, it's something that we've never seen before. So all of those things at the real base of it got pretty interesting. And then when you're a markets guy, or you look at markets a lot, then you start to see these ICOs, initial coin offerings, like IPOs and things like that happening. And, you start to see all these different ideas of people sort of starting projects and all these different coins and all these different things happening. It was, it's a pretty interesting space, but obviously very new. And I think in the macro world, it's sort of playing out. It's almost as bad to be too early on some of these things as it is to be too late. And it's been one of those things. It's continued to grow since I've been an investor in the fund, but over the last couple of years. But and will continue to grow going forward. But yeah, I mean, I suppose the other aspect to that is you then add regulation or lack of regulation. So, it's sort of, are these things securities or not? There's we have all this financial market regulation that's supposed to apply to stop people, getting ripped off or things happening that shouldn't be happening. And crypto adds a new angle to all of that. And I think regulators are still scratching their head about how to look at some of it. But again, those things are continuing to develop over time as well. So, it's a new, in essence, it's a new market, still is. But if you're into finance and understand financial markets, it's certainly something that I can't see it's not going away. It's not, to me, it's not a fad, and some people believe it is, but I think it's really going to be part of the future of our financial system, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. And I think that probably answers my next question a little bit, which is why you're bullish on crypto assets? Are there any other reasons which sort of leads to that bullishness?
Well, I think there's a few aspects to that. I mean, one is, as I just said, the market's not really going away. So, everyone I think knows Bitcoin. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Bitcoin's now more than 10 years old as a project, if you like, and a network that's been running and getting updated every 10 minutes, 24/7. So, I think there's been $1 trillion. I heard something the other day. There's like $1 trillion worth of transactions being transacted on just that one blockchain, if you like. So to me, it's got some substance, and it's not really this sort of fly-by-night type thing that some people think. Having said that, there are aspects to the crypto market that are potentially a bit sort of fly-by-night and are not going to be here for very long, and as you guys will well know. And so one of the things that about this market, I don't know how many coins or tokens or whatever you want to call them are out there at the moment, but it's thousands and thousands, right? So it's pretty complex, and I think it's sort of worth understanding conceptually how it all works, but how you then differentiate between one coin to the next is really sort of beyond my expertise. And that's one of the reasons that in investing in this market, that you probably want to do it on a diversified basis. And that's pretty normal, say in the equities world, where most sort of investors would have a portfolio of stocks as opposed to just putting it all into Apple or something. So that's sort of how I look at it. I think the other aspect to it is it sort of fits, an aspect of it fits into the macro picture at the moment, which is really around, effectively what governments are doing in debasing fiat currencies. So, effectively the MMT, or, the introduction of MMT and QE and all these things, certainly by the Fed and other governments around the world, seems to be this thing that's not going away. And so while the euro, say, mightn't depreciate necessarily that much against the dollar, they're all being debased against other assets. And you're seeing that in the gold market. So you're seeing the gold price be quite strong. And so certain assets or certain aspects to the crypto market seem to fit into that picture. So something like Bitcoin, again, if you see it as a store of value and you see US dollars or Australian dollars or whatever being devalued over time, then it's an asset that you can hold in your portfolio as a store of value, just like you would hold gold or silver or other precious metals or other assets. And certainly if we get to a point where inflation, all this QE that's been done so far hasn't produced any inflation anywhere in the world. So, if you believe that that's coming due to the loose monetary policy and the fiscal spending that's going to happen over the next few years, then you want to hold assets that are going to retain their value. So there's an aspect to me that fits into that whole macro picture. And I think the third aspect to it is it's a really small market. So if that, say Bitcoin becomes the new gold or is seen as the new gold, and if you read those books, The Madness of Crowds and the sort of whole behavioral economics side of things, then, you might see a lot of money running into this market that's still quite small. And to me, that means prices are going to go up. So, there's a lot of people out there predicting that they could, be 10x, 20x, 30x. I don't necessarily believe a lot of that. I think it's really just about the weight of money and where that's moving. And it's pretty hard for it to move out because the market's still pretty small. So, I can only ever really see probably moving in. And that adds some weight to being an investor in this market, I suppose.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Paul, what percentage of your portfolio is dedicated to crypto assets, and how do you see crypto assets fitting within your broader portfolio?
It's still quite small. So I sort of take a risk-adjusted approach. So I think if you look at the volatility of the crypto market, it's pretty volatile. Mind you, if you look at some of the new tech companies that are being IPO'd in the States, it's not probably too dissimilar to some of that. But if there was that company this week called Snowflake that's it doubled on its IPO and hasn't made a profit yet, and there are other examples of this, of highly volatile and sort of risky things that are going on in markets all the time. I think crypto is still probably in that category, and therefore my allocation is still reasonably small. Having said that, I've been increasing it over time because I'm becoming more confident that, again, the market's becoming more established and it's fitting more into my macro picture at the moment than it has in the last couple of years. But again, going back to the guys in the States that I'm associated with, most of their advice really and in all their beliefs about it, if you like, are really, it's a small, maybe it's a 5 or at maximum type 10% type allocation is what some people are doing. But that money is really money that you'd probably still be prepared to lose. So that's how I think a common belief out there is that you really only allocate what you'd be prepared to lose. I'm a bit more bullish than that. I don't think it's going to zero. So yeah, it's still quite small, but I'm adding to it over time, and I think I'm certainly in the mode at the moment where if there's pullbacks in the market, that I'd be adding to my allocation.
When you decided to invest in crypto assets, what was the process? Did you try investing DIY? How did you find out Apollo, and why did you decide to invest in Apollo?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So I did, which was really, I think, essential for me to get my hands dirty. And, so I got onto, there's a pretty good exchange that I got onto in Australia that, where you could transfer money into and buy coins there. And I set up some wallets and I transferred the coins to the wallets, and you see how the process actually works. And that also then opens your eyes to some of the security aspects to this market, and they're not straightforward. So you can, you buy a Bitcoin, if you lose it, it's pretty hard to go and find it, right? So there's all that sort of stuff that can happen. And I remember when I first started talking to you guys, a lot of my questions were around that, is how are you managing the sort of security of the assets in this fund, and I was pretty amazed that you'd really actually spent a lot of time thinking about that and understanding how to do it, and you had providers for those services and things like that, and you'd sort of so there, to me the DIY aspect to it was pretty important from a learning process, But I quickly sort of realised that because it's a new market and because it's so volatile and because there was all these different coins out there and you'd want to build a portfolio, once you start doing DIY and trying to have a portfolio and trying to trade this stuff, and you don't want it sitting in exchanges necessarily because of the security issues of exchanges getting hacked, you create a lot of work for yourself. So it's, you know, I automatically then thought, well, why don't I go to and see if there's going to be some funds. And I started to see a couple of funds in the States that were set up. And then I came across you guys, and you guys you hadn't necessarily, I think it was a month or two before you went live, but, or might have been right at the time that you were going live. But so that's how we started talking, and we met a few times before I ended up investing, and so to me that process was really then a leap of faith to hand that control of the investing over to you guys, right? And that's with any funds management investment. That's, you know, there's always that leap of faith. With this one, it was probably bigger than others because it was such a new market, and you know, I didn't know you guys at all, but I got a feeling that you'd done a lot of homework on this. I got a lot of comfort that there was, you know, this is an Australian regulated fund, and that you know, you've had to comply with all those ASIC regulations, and that you get audited and all that sort of stuff, and also that you've got all those approvals on the basis of how you put the security in place of the assets, and that that you've got a pretty reputable accounting firm that audits it and all that sort of stuff as well. So I, you know, again, there's definitely a leap of faith that's involved, but to me the advantage is then, one, you know, I'm effectively hiring some experts to look at this market on my behalf. And, you know, two, I'm getting a portfolio type approach. I suppose the other thing that really tipped that decision was that, you know, in talking to yourself and to Heinrich as well, you were being pretty cautious about what you were looking to invest in. So, you know, there were thousands of these things out there, and this whole ICO market was going mad, and there was money sort of flowing into it and things like that. But I think one conversation we had, you said you'd looked at 100, 150 projects and you'd invested in 4. And that to me was really a real positive, because I sort of felt as though you were being really considered about how the market was developing and what was happening and who you were trusting out there and what projects looked good and what didn't. And that's certainly expertise that I don't have. So you know, it's a bit of a wild west when you start looking at what people recommend, and you know, effectively all these ICOs were raising money to build, you know, technology projects, and who knows whether they're ever going to be successful, or anyone was ever going to take them up. So that was, I suppose, that was the other thing that sort of brought me to you guys.
Excellent. Yeah, I just had a quick check on CoinMarketCap earlier today, and it suggests there's over 7,000 crypto assets now. We're invested in about 20 to 25. So I think being selective is certainly key.
Yeah, well, now, you know, now we're a bit further down, or obviously a fair bit further down the track, but the results are starting to, you know, to really pay off. So, you know, you guys have performed really well, looking at the benchmarks that you compare yourself to as well. So, you know, that, I think that approach has been pretty smart, and obviously it seems to be starting to pay off. So, you know, well done there.
Thank you, and hopefully we can continue to deliver. But yeah, thank you, Paul, for your insights, I should say, and thank you for taking the time to share your journey with the Apollo Network. And yeah, we look forward to your continued support, and hopefully we can deliver some good returns. But yeah, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thanks.